Good evening. Sorry, we're running a little bit late today. We typically run on time. We apologize, but we will move as quick as we can. Please, as best as you can, ladies and gentlemen, we could get through this really, really quickly. If you just remember three things: be bold, be brilliant, and be brief. And so we're going to get through this agenda as quick as we can. We're going to start with Senator Nick Charles, who is going to introduce Mr. Anthony McAllister first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. You know, it's an honor and a privilege to be here in front of you. My first time bringing somebody up here. And so it's an honor to do it for such an amazing man. For the record, I'm Senator Nick Charles, and it is with a great pleasure that I stand before you today to introduce Anthony Jerome McAllister, a District 25 constituent. He is a beacon of leadership, compassion, and service within Prince George's County, Maryland. For 3 decades, Anthony dedicated himself to the betterment of youth and families as a juvenile probation and parole officer in Alexandria, Virginia. Beyond his distinguished career in law enforcement, Anthony is a committed family man, a loving husband, and a devoted father. His dedication to his own family mirrors his commitment to strengthening families across our region. As a commissioner on the Commission for Fathers, Men, and Boys in Prince George's County, Maryland, he continues to advocate for the well-being and empowerment of men and fathers in our communities. His leadership in the capacity speaks volumes about his dedication to fostering positive change. In February 2022, Anthony's expertise and dedication were recognized when he was appointed by the Governor of Maryland to serve on the Maryland Parole Commission. And Anthony McAllister, we find a rare combination of integrity, empathy, and resilience. His unwavering dedication to serving others and effecting positive changes makes him an invaluable asset to our parole commission and our communities at large. I am honored to introduce him. He is a good man. He is a good family man, and I'm so honored to introduce him to stay in his role and be reappointed to the position of a parole commissioner. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'll bring up Mr. McAllister.
Thank you, sir. I want to say good evening, Chair Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, and President Ferguson, and the entire members of the Maryland Senate Nominations Committee. I humbly ask your consideration for reappointment to the Maryland Parole Commission. The last 19 months have given me a greater understanding of the important work that happens at the Maryland Parole Commission, and I remain excited to be a part of the work that's going on there. I want to thank my Senator Nick Charles for that warm introduction. I want to give honor to God for the opportunity to continue my life of servanthood as I continue to serve the citizens of the great state of Maryland. I want to thank my wife for 32 years, Tyrese, for always encouraging me, lifting me, and supporting me, along with my daughters, Indasia, and my late daughter, Ayana. I want to give thanks to Governor Wes Moore for this awesome reappointment to the Maryland Parole Commission, as well as Secretary of Public Safety, Ms. Carolyn Scruggs. And lastly, I want to say that I'm looking forward to continuing my work with Chairman Bloomberg and the entire Maryland Parole Commission as I continue to bring over 3 decades of working with young adults and families to the Maryland Parole Commission. I thank you all, and I'm open for any questions.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. McAllister. Are there any questions? Thank you so very much. Have a good evening.
All right. Thank you, sir.
All right. We're going to go back to the top of the agenda and call on Senator Mary Washington, who's going to introduce Theo. Good to see you, Theo.
I see the chair is familiar with our candidate today for the Airport Zoning Board of Appeals. My constituent Theo Ngongong was born in Cameroon. And he completed his undergraduate degree in France. He's a trained architect, planner for more than 20 years at the city and the state government. He obtained his master's degree from Harvard University. That's small school. He has served as the chair of the St. Ambrose Housing Aid and just a number of nonprofit organizations doing good work in Baltimore. Additionally, he told me that he played basketball in France And while he admits it may not be the same as, you know, here in Baltimore, that he will challenge anyone to a one-on-one, should you desire that. And again, please accept my strong endorsement of this candidate for this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Senator Washington. Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Chair, Mr. Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, Mr. President, good to see you all. It is, again, my pleasure and it's my honor to be here in front of the committee, member of the committee. Good afternoon. My name is Theo Ngongong, as it was stated. I am here as a testament of the Westmore administration having selected me to be part of the zoning appeal for the airports in Baltimore area, BWI and Martin Airport. So I stand in front of the committee here in seeking, of course, your approval to the appointment, but I'm also here to answer any questions you may have.
Excellent. Thank you. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you so much, Theo. I second the nomination. I've known Theo for quite some time and serving the city of Baltimore in the planning department, Department of Transportation, always the consummate professional. Thank you so much for appearing for us.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. All right. Next, we're going to hear from Senator Mouse. He's going to introduce Yolanda Acree.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and colleagues. It's a great honor to be here to present Yolanda Acree, who has been nominated for the Maryland State Arts Council for a term of 3 years. Yolanda hails from the Green Garden County, that's Caroline County. She is she's an artist and she's a community historian. She holds a bachelor's degree in anthropology, and I've had the great privilege of having the time to sit and talk to Yolanda about serving on the Arts Council. She's excited. I think she's going to bring a great vision and she's going to be a great voice for the Eastern Shore. I want to point out to everybody on June 30th, Yolanda, if confirmed, will be the only representative on the Eastern Shore serving on the Arts Council. So we're very, very grateful for your willingness to step up. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn the microphone over to Yolanda.
Thank you, Senator Mouse. I want to say greetings to Chairman Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, and Mr. Senate President. I would also like to thank Governor Westmore for the appointment. I am extremely excited to serve on the Arts Council, particularly representing the Eastern Shore. And in my service, I hope to ensure that all Marylanders have equitable access to the arts. I would like to take any questions now. There are some.
Excellent. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Indeed. Oh, there she is. Senator Benson is going to introduce Marva Camp.
Hello, everybody. Must not be anybody here. Hello, everybody. That sounds better. It really is good to be here. I want you all to know that. My name is Senator Joanne C. Benson from the 24th Legislative District. I am here with pride to present the name of Marva Jo Camp, who is seeking the position of Maryland State Arts Council for 3 years. She is a graduate of the University of Virginia, having received her Bachelor of Arts and her law degree from the University of Virginia. Her work in the field of law is deep and wide. She operates her own law firm. In addition, she has chaired the board of property review, acted as legal counsel for citizens oversight, pro bono counsel for Prince George's County Tennis and Education, United States Tennis Association, Prince George's County Community Development, African Development Bank, Congressional Task Force on Minority and Small Businesses, and the list of what she has done for Prince George's County and the great state of Maryland goes on and on. Marva Jo Camp comes before us with the knowledge and experience that is associated with the Prince George's County Arts Council, having served from 1999 to 2005. She's given unselfishly of her resources and her time in reaching down and lifting up. Time after time, she has volunteered so many hours in working with organizations and businesses to ensure success in helping to raise the bar for a bright and productive future for our citizens. She's a wonderful mother of two beautiful daughters, and a great role model who has not kept her goodness to herself. She is a true asset to our county and to our state. It gives me great pleasure to present to you the name of Marva Jo Camp. You're welcome.
Good afternoon, Chair Ames, Vice Chair Lamb, Senate President Ferguson, and let me say a special thank you to the phenomenal Senator Joanne Benson, and I also see another Prince George's Senator, Augustine. I wanted to first thank the Governor Moore, the phenomenal Governor Moore, for the trust that he has instilled in making this nomination. I was told to be brief, so all I want to say to you is I am passionate about the arts and I am an advocate for the arts, and I humbly ask that you would accept my nomination from Governor Moore. And most importantly, I'm here with my daughter, my youngest one, Taylor, and just delighted that she gets to see democracy in action. Thank you. Any questions?
Ms. Camp, you're definitely loved with that introduction from Senator Benson.
And I love her back.
I called you as Marva Camp, and Senator Augustine immediately said, Marva Jo
Oh
Camp.
yeah, Marva Jo.
Yeah.
I'm named after Joe Lewis and his wife Marva, so I make a big deal about that. Thank you, Senator Augustine.
Senator Augustine.
Lee, yes, thank you so much. I just want to second this nomination. Ms. Camp has just really been so dedicated to the arts. So this is just a beautiful thing that she'll be back serving our state. And I just really strongly second the nomination. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. And thank you, Senator.
Thank you. All right. I don't see, is Senator Ellis? Yeah, Senator Ellis, if you would introduce to us Ms. Walker.
Hello, good to see you. Yeah. Chair Hayes, members of the Executive Nominations Committee. This is my first time meeting Ms. Walker. And I think I was like, I hope she's here. So, and she's here on time. So thank you for being here. You know, she's an innovative and community-focused dance professional with close to 30 years of teaching, performing, and arts, administrative, and advocacy experience. She's creative and administrative, skilled in developing community programs, choreography, fundraising, writing, curricula and grants, concert production, and master classes and specialty workshops in the genres of ballet, jazz, and modern, with a specialty in African and African diaspora dances. I'm not an arts guy. I don't know what half of that means. So we have to get together later on and you'll tell me what those are. But this is one of the busiest ladies I know. If you look at her resume, she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 jobs presently, okay? Adjunct faculty at Bowie State, 24 to present. College of Southern Maryland, adjunct faculty. National Association for American African Dance Theaters, 2016 to present. The Viva Dance School, City Dance faculty. And I won't go to the second and third and fourth and fifth page of your resume. But very much, you can see that she'll bring tremendous talent and experience and knowledge to this board. So I highly recommend Ms. Monique Newton Walker to the committee for your approval.
Good afternoon. Committee Chair Senator Hayes, Vice Chair Senator Lamb, and Senate President Bill Ferguson. It's a pleasure to greet you all this afternoon, and it is my pleasure, and I am completely elated to serve as a member, as a counselor for the Maryland State Arts Council. I'm grateful to Governor Westmore for the appointment and the committee for their consideration. And I'm also grateful for my family who has joined me here today. As you see, I am very active in the community and the arts, and it is my, like I said, deep pleasure to join and provide a perspective for the arts landscape in Southern Maryland. I am here to answer any questions you may have.
Are there any questions of the committee? No, ma'am. Thank you so very much. All right, next, did I see Senator McKay? Oh, there he is, Senator McKay. Introduce to us Mr. Beachler. Mrs. Beachler.
Chair, Vice Chair, Mr. President, I have one question. You said be bold, brief, and bedazzled?
Bold, brilliant, and brief.
Brilliant, not bedazzled, because I think I left my 1980s jeans bedazzler at home. So anyhow, it is a pleasure, committee, for me to introduce Kathy Beachler, who is promoted to the Executive Director of the Garrett County Arts Council in 2019 after 20 years experience in the arts, education, management, partnership, development, and community engagement. Hopefully you've been bedazzled. I will give you two incidences of her bold experience. In 2019, she became the Executive Director of the Garrett County Arts Council in Oakland after her and her husband moved to Garrett County to open up a local eatery, the Deep Creek Seafood. Bold number two experience that she spent many, many years in Baltimore, whether it be with Any Given Child coordinator for Arts Every Day, or the Director of Arts and Culinary Partnerships and Arts at Every Day. Last of all, to be brief, it is my pleasure to introduce you to Ms. Kathy Beachler for your approval to the State Arts Council. Ms. Kathy.
Thank you, Senator Hayes, Senator Land, and Senator President Ferguson, and all the esteemed senators for your consideration and support this evening. Thank you to Governor Moore and the Honorable Senator McKay for my nomination to the board of the Maryland State Arts Council. As Executive Director of the Garrett County Arts Council and a current Appalachian Regional Commission Leadership Institute Fellow, I am very honored to serve the Maryland State Arts Council Board and represent Western Maryland and advocate for all our Appalachian arts organizations, artists, artisans, and rural entrepreneurs. I am happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
Excellent, wonderful presentation. Are there any questions? Thank you so very much. Have a good evening. Next, we will hear from Senator Jennings. Is Senator Jennings here? Or maybe not. No Senator Jennings. All right, let's go with myself. Mr. Vice Chair. Good morning. All right, Desmond Jackson. Indeed. So good evening, colleagues. Senator Antonio Hayes from the 40th Legislative District for the record. This evening, I present to you Desmond Jackson. Desmond is an accessibility analyst, and he's done this job since 2022, but also being no stranger to the blind industries, the appointment in which he stands before us today. He also served blind industries as a training manager from 2011 to 2020. Without further ado, colleagues, I urge a favorable recommendation for Mr. Desmond Jackson.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Chairman Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, and President Ferguson. It is an honor to have this appointment. I am committed to improving the social, economic, and just providing opportunities for the blind people of Maryland. And it's just an honor to serve on the board of Blind Industries. And I am open to any questions.
Wonderful presentation. No questions. There you go.
Any questions from the committee? All right,
Do all
thank you.
three. Next is Yolanda Tanner here. Colleagues, the Honorable Judge Tanner is being appointed to the Judiciary Review Committee. She has presided over trials in the criminal, civil, and family and juvenile courts, the grand jury judge since 2019 to 21, and currently the chair of the Personnel Committee. She come with many accomplishments and definitely qualified to serve on the review committee. I urge a favorable recommendation of Yolanda Tanner.
Senator Hayes, thank you very much. Vice Chair Lamb, President Ferguson, members of the committee, good evening. It is my pleasure to be with you. I want to express my thanks to the governor for this nomination and to tell you that in the 20 years that I've served as a judicial officer, I've come to understand the importance of fairness and integrity and the fact that the public needs to understand what it is that we are doing. And I am open to any questions that you may have. Thank you.
No questions. Thank you.
Any questions from the committee?
Jarrell Booker, there he is. I'm looking for you. So Jarrell, I've known for many years, Mr. Chair, Senator Antonio Hayes from the 40th District, for the record. He has, served as professional in education for more than 20 years. He's very involved in civic engagement opportunities throughout Baltimore, lending his intelligence and talent to many nonprofit organizations throughout the city of Baltimore. And so without further ado, I recommend a favorable nomination of Mr. Jarrell Booker.
Appreciate that, Chair. And appreciate everyone. Some are many of you or all of you are senators, but I consider you all dear friends first. Jarrell Bratcher, I didn't want to be like Dr. Galia Santos last week, who gave you all a 25-page resume. So I wanted to spare you all that and just give you a brief one. I've done work also in this space with serving or being nominated to the Johns Hopkins Police Accountability Board. Definitely appreciate everyone here, Governor Westmore, my senator and senators. And from the juvenile space, they've been endorsed by Hopkins and entities across this city, state, and country, and also with upholding to everything that we intend to do and that the public needs us to do in terms of the Johns Hopkins Police Accountability Board. And, feel free to Google me. And you will definitely see tried and true that my record, my words mean something, and the worth is well worth its weight in gold.
Questions for this nominee? Seeing none, thank you very much. Next, we'll go to the Blind Industries and Services of Maryland Board of Trustees. I think we have Senator Carrozza up for Mr. Jeffrey Brian Schur.
Good evening, friends and colleagues. For the record, Senator Mary Beth Carrozza, representing Maryland's coast, that's Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset counties. And I'm very excited to introduce and support the nomination of Jeff Scher, who's been nominated for the Blind Industries and Services of Maryland, the Board of Trustees. And I can tell you that Jeff and his family and his wife Joanne is here, and his son Zach back running the business. They are outstanding community pharmacists, and it's a family business that really has reached in and supported the community over the years. I wanted to share with you that Jeff Scher is now serving on the adjunct Blind Industries and Services Board. So he has been working the issues. He's been very involved with blind industries in Salisbury. And when I talk about the community involvement of this family, and especially with Jeff's leadership, we're talking about Coastal Hospice of the Eastern Shore. We're talking, I mentioned blind industry. We're talking about the Commission on Aging locally. And also he's involved with Salisbury University as well. So this is the type of member that I think will continue to make a great contribution to this state board. And I'm pleased to introduce Jeff to you.
Thank you, Senator Carozza. Senator Hayes, Senator Lamb, Senator Ferguson. Appreciate the opportunity to stand in front of you all today. Thank you for the opportunity to continue to serve Blind Industries of Maryland. It's interesting, as Senator Carozza said, I'm a pharmacist, and part of what I've always tried to do is to help people. And that's really what I'm trying to do here, is I'm trying to lend a hand to the Blind Industries of Maryland, give them a little bit of a retail look into things as they continue to grow. It's an incredible organization, as you can tell by the people that we surround ourselves with, and it's given them the opportunity to live normal, happy lives. And basically, all I want to do is help. That's all I want to do. I'm not after any money or anything like that. I just want to help. So with that, if anybody has any questions, I'd be honored to answer the questions.
Thank you so much for your volunteer service. Any questions? Thank you so much. Have a good evening. Next, I'm going to call I believe it's Alfred Thomas, and I'm not going to get that last name. Yes. What is it? D'Agostino. I'm trying my best. But as Mr. Alfred makes it to the podium, on behalf of Senator J.B. Jennings, who could not be here this evening, who really, really wanted to be here on behalf of his constituent, I introduce to you, colleagues, Mr. Alfred Agostino. He has a long history in creating various methods of teaching, learning studies and intervention, establishing learning objectives in terms of measurable outcomes, and connects them to course and lab activities, formulating teaching methods, activities based on learning, theology, and students' needs. There's so many different letters in the alphabet that's in the various scholarships that the candidate is presenting to us this evening. I ask that you look favorable on behalf of Senator Jennings for Mr. Alfred Agostino.
Good evening, Chairperson Hayes, Vice Chairperson Lamb, President Ferguson, and I thank Senator Jennings for the opportunity to come before you. I graduated from the blindness training program at Blind Industries and Services of Maryland. That's a one-year residential program. And that was after retiring as Professor Emeritus of Chemistry. I've served as adjunct board member, and I'm completing my first full term as a trustee at Blind Industries and Services of Maryland. And I thank Governor Moore for the opportunity to begin a second term. My twofold interest in being a board member at Blind Industries and Services of Maryland is to help support their independence training and rehabilitation program, which serves blind Maryland citizens so that they get the blindness skills they need to have a fulfilled life, including employment. And secondly, Blind Industries and Services of Maryland uses the business side to actually help blind individuals be gainfully employed and advance in their employment. So thank you again for the opportunity to be considered for the Board of Trustees.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Thank you so very much, sir. Next, we're going to hear from Senator Reedy, who will introduce to us this evening Diane Butler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. I'm here today to present Diane Butler for one of the two Republican spots on the Maryland State Board of Elections. She resides in Senator Hester's district in District 9, and Senator Hester couldn't be here this evening, but had given me something to read first from her, and then I'll make a few comments if that's okay, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. From Senator Hester, today I'm honored to introduce Diane Butler, who has been nominated to the State Board of Elections. As a resident of District 9, Ms. Butler has been a member of the Board of Directors for the Howard County Board of Elections since 2015 through, I believe, 2023. Yes, where she has consistently collaborated with other board members to execute initiatives and conducted board business to advance the mission of the Board of Elections. Ms. Butler brings a wealth and broad range of experience to her role with a background in public relations, leadership, and strategic planning. She's also been actively involved in community organizations and volunteer roles, such as on the Community Advisory Council to the Howard County Board of Education, Chief Election Judge, Tracy Tomorrow Executive Board, and the Route 40 Corridor Committee for Howard County. Thank you, Ms. Butler, for your enduring commitment to our community and state. And thank you, Chairman Hayes and Vice Chairman Lamb and members of the committee. And if I could just take a moment, I've actually known Diane for many years. I think we first met way back in probably 2009 or 2010. And she had served previously before her election board service on the Republican Central Committee of Howard County, has been really involved in a lot of different community initiatives. I was just saw former Senator Kittleman, I know, was a friend of yours and somebody that you worked with as well on different initiatives. And she's, I think, a great choice for the State Board of Elections, and she has my full support. So without further ado, I'd just like to introduce Diane Butler to you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thanks. That was great. Hi, I'd like to thank Senator Brady and Katie Hester. Also, I'd like to thank Senator Hayes and Lamb and President Ferguson. And on top of that, I really want to thank the governor for my nomination and for his generous recommendation. It was very, very well done. I also want to thank my husband, Andrew Butler, who I've been married to for 36 years, and he's put up with all my volunteering for my community for many, many years. I was honored to serve on the Howard County Board of Elections with probably the best or one of the best directors that we have in the state. And I learned a tremendous amount from him. Our board was so excellent. I think that 99% of the decisions that we made were unanimous as we worked in a nonpartisan manner in order to serve our citizens. And I think that was what I was most proud of. So, and I'm sure you have some questions for me.
I'm sure there are.
Okay.
Looking around, Mr. Vice Chair, you want to go first?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for being here. You're not the first appointee that's come before us for the State Board of Elections. We've been asking folks about their backgrounds and prior activities. Some of these questions are along those veins. Have you ever engaged in any activities that someone might view as questioning the integrity of an election?
No, absolutely not.
And are you able to say where you were or were not on January 6, 2021?
Yes, I just gotten back from Florida visiting with my daughter, and I was actually cleaning my fish tank because it got a bunch of stuff in it while I was gone. So I was at home.
Okay. And do you think fraud is a significant problem in Maryland's elections?
Do I think fraud is? No.
Okay. And do you believe that there's been illegal interference in past elections here in the state of Maryland?
Illegal interference? I don't think so.
And what are your thoughts on mail-in ballots?
Mail-in ballots is very interesting. I was very impressed with Colorado when they did their mail-in ballots. They set up a program, and they took like 6 years to set it up, and they went out and got all new voter rolls and checked all their voter rolls. They hired different people. They set up different machinery, and they really did a really nice job. So I was watching that as other states started working towards that. And I think they did a very, very good job. So that's one to look at how they went about doing it. I think with COVID, so many states were forced into doing mail-in ballots quickly. And I think not having the prep time for that caused us to have, legislation that we then had to rewrite a little bit the next time around to kind of catch some of the things that went, the cracks that fell through. But I think it can be done extremely well. And I think we did a good job with it under the circumstances we had. We worked very hard, but I think we did a very good job for setting that up so quickly.
Did you have any concerns about security of mail-in ballots and any need for signature verification?
So a need for signature verification?
Verification of those who signed those mail-in ballots
No,
to
we
match
compare-
those that may be on the voter file.
When the ballots come in, they compare the signatures. We have, the ballots come into the, and then we check and make sure that they're registered voters, and then we put them into the system that that the ballot has come in. We let them know that the ballots come in. We let them know that it's being processed. So I think that system has been very good. So we've been able to let the voters know that their ballot did get there too. Yeah.
Okay. My office had received a snapshot of a Facebook post that appears to have been made by you a couple of years ago. It's a comment that was left on a post about a CDC masking guidance.
About, I'm sorry?
To which CDC masking guidance. So the Centers for Disease Control had guidance on masking for individuals, and the post that was purported to be from you said that you had responded with the comment of "What's next? Nazi armbands." Is that something you recall posting in the past?
No, I don't recall that.
Okay, so you do not believe that was done by you?
It could have been mine. I think that there were a lot of different thoughts about the masks, and I think people had a lot of thoughts in the beginning because COVID wasn't as bad as it was, and then it turned out to be worse. And I think we all had to go through a tremendous amount of learning curves on how we were going to deal with a pandemic of that sort.
Okay. Have you ever made complaints to the state board about the security of elections, either in your official or personal capacity?
No.
Okay.
No, we signed off on all of ours.
Because we received an email from that was dated from May 18th, 2021 from the State Board of Elections, from a State Board of Elections official that referenced your concerns that you had about a prior election that was taking place. And do you not recall that?
Well, we had some issues with the elections where our system was extremely tight before.
When you say our, are you referring to the Howard County Board of Elections system?
Howard County Board of Elections and the Maryland State Board of Elections. I think we've had so many changes so quickly that I think there are some places that we could improve. I think the chain of custody of ballots was, I think the 1 year, it was kind of sloppy. I mean, we were literally in a room and ballots were coming in and they weren't being categorized as tightly as we in the past had done. In the past, ours were always so good. We knew where every ballot was. And that one I think was a little bit sloppy. And I think that might have been the point that I think I may have talked to Jared about that at the conference maybe. And anyway, so it is a procedure and it's a big procedure. And we literally in the middle of the room, one of the top people for Howard County stopped and he said, we need to stop and we need to figure out what we're doing and we need to tighten this process. And I think that was important that he saw that and was able to do that because we do need to keep it as tight as we can. It's important for the citizens to trust everything.
Did that make you question the results of that election at all?
No, I don't think so. No.
And
we do audits. I mean, we do the audits and our audits come out very good. Our audits are always good.
Okay, so the audits have come out very good. You had some prior concerns. You feel like those have been satisfied?
I think so. I think we've tightened. I think some of the legislation changed when they realized things that we needed to change. And I think some of the legislators have realized that there are other things that we can work on because we do want the confidence of everyone, every party, every unaffiliated voter. We want every voter to feel confident in the system.
And do you think any of your prior comments or actions might cause anyone to have any question about their confidence in the system?
Oh, my prior questions? No,
any of your prior comments or public communications or outreach to other state board or county board of elections officials?
No, because that's why we have the state boards, why we have our conventions so that we can talk about things that may need a little bit of help and may need to be fixed. So I think if we don't have that conversation, then we never get any better, and we should always be striving to be the best that we can.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you have some more? Did you want to?
No, did you have any more questions?
Oh, yeah, Senator Carozza does.
Thank you, Ms. Butler, for your previous service at the local level. And I was interested, given the fact that you've served locally and this is a state appointment.
Right.
I'm on the committee that has oversight of elections, and often when different bills are proposed or policies put forth, my first call is to check locally with Worcester, Wycomico, and Somerset to try to really understand how the proposal might impact at the local level. And that's when you sometimes find out if something is feasible or what the challenges might be at the local level. So I wanted you just to comment on the fact that you've had this experience at the local level, how that can be helpful at the state level.
It's very helpful because we have some small counties and we have some very large counties. And sometimes when we write a bill, it doesn't really apply to the smaller counties as much as the larger counties. And so they have different budgets and they have different needs. And I think the one thing that Jared said at his hearing the other day about working with the directors all across the state, I think is very important because they're very total different needs from the smaller ones to the larger ones. And so I think that that's a very good goal for Jared, is to work with the state board so that we can work with all of the directors.
And it sounds like you would also be willing to continue that local interaction as a
Oh,
board.
yes, yeah. Every time the bills would come up, we would discuss them and discuss, what could happen and then take it to Mayo and then have Mayo discuss it with the boards to see, because sometimes bills are just written and they don't know how the process actually does work. So it helps to be able to take it to Mayo, have Mayo talk to the legislators that are writing it and say, this might cause this. And I think that's very important.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Carozza. President Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Ms. Butler, for putting your name in to serve. And it's no easy task. And on boards of elections, there's a lot of work can go into it. So I appreciate putting your name into the hat for it. Two questions, one substantive, one sort of logistics. The first is on internet delivered ballots. Do you have any perspective or take on the process of internet delivered ballots?
On the internet delivered ballots? Well, we did a lot of internet ballots, I think, with our servicemen overseas.
Right.
So, I learned that process there, and I think that was done a little bit differently. I think we do have some issues with paper. I mean, if you have a yellow piece of paper, you're not supposed to take the ballot because you can identify someone. So we've got to tighten our rules just so that we know what we're taking, what we're not taking. So I think there's a lot of ways that we can just watch what we're doing and be careful so that we can and that's one I should probably look more into, but we weren't quite there yet, so I hadn't gotten there yet.
Fair enough. Fair enough. No, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Secondly, and please, without any sort of kind of personal, we had to move the hearing up quickly because I believe you may be out of town for a while, and just want to check to make sure that you feel like you have the time and capacity with, I presume, pre-scheduled trips. And so, but I don't, without any personal details of it, just making sure that you feel that you have the time to allocate and dedicate towards election seasons and serving on the board in this.
Oh, yeah, I definitely do. I'm finishing up. I do the federal assessments in the schools, and we're finishing that up. It actually went 2 weeks over. I would have been finished Friday, but we're going to go 2 weeks over, which I'll finish up in Florida. My daughter's ill, and I'm going to go down there and just help her with some of her medical stuff. And then I'll be back. And I won't have anything on my plate at that point. So I can really devote some time to this, which would be excellent.
Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Senator Zucker, did you change your mind? All right. Ms. Butler, thank you so very much. I know there was a lot of questions. Thank you for stepping up to serve. Given what's happened in the last year or so, I think there's heightened concern about, who this committee move forward and serving on the Board of Elections, which is serving in that capacity, we believe is a very important role to preserving our democracy. So thank you for stepping up, and look forward to further deliberations on your nomination. Thank you so very much.
Thank you. And some of that I didn't even know about until I read about it in the paper when they put my name in. I went, oh, I can see why this is going to be a little more contentious. So.
Indeed. We've been living it, but thank you so very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Indeed.
Thank you.
Next is Senator Foden here. No, I don't see Senator Foden. I'll come back around. Senator Alfred has been waiting very patiently. We want to have you introduce Brian Sweeney, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was hoping if I made eye contact, I might get called on. So thank you very much to the members of the committee. Mr. Chair, I do have two today. Ms. Kitty Higgins is in the corner and Mr. Sweeney's
Yeah,
behind.
and since you're up there already, Senator,
Okay.
if you want, after
Sure.
the gentleman get finished, if you want to introduce your next person, you
Perfect.
can do so.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the Executive Nominations Committee. Senator Sarah Elfreth here on behalf of District 30 to strongly support the nomination of Mr. Brian Sweeney to the Maryland Industrial Development Financing Authority. As you can see from Mr. Sweeney's resume, I'll be brief. He's the founder of the Maryland MEP, which is a leading manufacturing economic development organization in Maryland, being our focus and emphasis is on bringing manufacturing back to Maryland. His real world experience and decades of insight, I think, will be incredibly helpful towards this effort and to this authority. And he's also the dad of two Navy SEALs, both of whom graduated from the United States Naval Academy. And so he has great local ties and I know will make a great addition to the authority. And with that, I strongly recommend his nomination.
Thank you. Senator Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, Senate President Ferguson, and Sarah, thank you very much. Thank you for your consideration for this appointment for a second part of a second term with the Maryland Industrial Development Finance Authority. I appreciate the time and the effort to do it, and I like enjoying the service component of it. So with that, if anyone has any questions.
Are there any questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
And ma'am, I know everyone is coming up to the podium, but you do have the option to sit at the table if it's more comfortable, but either one you choose, I'll leave it up to you.
Okay. Yeah, this mic. Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chair. For the record, Senator Sarah Elfreth, District 30 here to very enthusiastically endorse the nomination of my dear friend, Miss Kitty Higgins to the Washington Metro Safety Commission. And I do appreciate these hearings because I get to learn more about constituents that I did not know. I already knew that Ms. Higgins was probably one of the most accomplished constituents in District 30, but it wasn't until looking at her resume, I realized just how accomplished she is. In addition to her service on the National Transportation Safety Board, she also served, and I didn't know this, Kitty, as Deputy Secretary of Labor and as acting chair of the National Endowment for the Arts, in addition to just a laundry list of local service here to our community. But I'm not sure there's a more qualified person when it comes to transportation safety than Ms. Higgins, given her national experience, and will make an incredible addition to the Washington Metro Rail Safety Commission, and enthusiastically support her nomination.
Thank you. Thank you, Sarah. It's an honor to be on this. It's sort of amazing as this appointment, this nomination came out of the blue. It's actually through work that I've done in the Irish community through as opposed to the safety community, but I did serve on the NTSB for a full term, and because work that I'd done in the executive branch in the Clinton administration, where there were a number of accidents, and I did actually work on a couple of metro accidents, and I've actually started working with the commission, and it's a very impressive group. So I'm honored to be part of that, if you agree with my nomination, and happy to answer any questions, and pleasure to be with all of you.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. Senator Roosevelt.
Thank you very, very much. It's very
Hi.
nice. Hi there. Exactly. We've known each other for a while. Exactly. We both served in the Clinton
I
administration.
knew you were on the committee. I just couldn't see you from the.
I
where I was sitting.
understand. So my only disappointment is you're not my constituent, but really you're a terrific person. You've got great experience, great values. You're going to do a great job, and thank you for serving.
Well, thank you. It's good to see you.
Are there any additional questions? Thank you so very
Thank
much.
you. Take care.
Indeed. Next, we're going to hear from Senator Ferguson. President Ferguson, President, you have two nominees. We're going to start with Laura Rossi. And then once Ms. Rossi presents, if you would stay at the podium and introduce Ava Lyas Booker, we greatly appreciate it.
Ms. Rossi is joining us here in just a moment. Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. It is my pleasure to introduce you to Ms. Laura Rossi, who is a recent transfer to Johns Hopkins University. This is for the Police Accountability Board. However, has a long history of professional work in human relations, and so is working for the Peabody Institute, which many of us know very well. Was in the private sector for a bit, a COVID transition, and before that was with MICA and was the HR director and knows HR policies and HR oversight better than almost any in the community, in the college higher education front. So without further ado, Ms. Laura Rossi.
So good afternoon. Thank you so much. I'm very humbled to be here today, and just wanted to talk a little bit about being part of the Johns Hopkins Police Accountability Board and being a resident of Baltimore City. So I think it'd be a wonderful opportunity for myself plus the community. I've been employed with higher education institutions for over 10 years. I've had over 20 years of human resources experience, and based on my experience in human resources and higher ed, working closely with campus safety, campus security, during including times of great challenges for both citizens and institutions. I feel this would be a wonderful opportunity, and I would look forward to serving my community and my employer. Any questions?
Excellent. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you so very much. Senator Ferguson.
Excellent. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the committee. It is my true pleasure to introduce Ava Lias Booker. I had a second guess right when I started to come out. I had the pleasure of getting to know her this afternoon. An experienced trial litigator, works at McGuire Woods, but relevant to the UMS board for which she is appointed is service on the St. Joe's Medical Board, has extensive history, understands the nature of complex medical marketplace that we have here in Maryland. And then two small personal facts. Not only is she incredibly talented, experienced lawyer, her daughter is incredibly accomplished and dedicated lawyer down in North Carolina after having gone to Duke. And her son just recently signed a contract with the Philadelphia Eagles, where he is a 2-year contract to play defensive end for the Eagles. So exciting story. Was on the practice squad, went up, and she travels to see many of the games. So very, very cool. So with that, I give you Ms. Lias Booker.
Thank you so much, Senate President and my Senator, Bill Ferguson, Chairman Hayes, Vice Chair Dr. Lamb, and distinguished members of the Senate Executive Nominations Committee. I want to thank you for considering my nomination to the UMS board. It is an honor to be appointed by our Honorable Governor, Bless Moore, to serve an institution that delivers comprehensive health care services throughout the state of Maryland. And it is profoundly humbling to be considered for a leadership role in a health care organization comprised of 12 hospitals that serve over 1.2 million patients throughout the state. I've practiced law, as you heard, in this state for more than 3 decades, and I've served in various leadership volunteer roles that I hope will help me bring value to the UMS board as well. I also serve on a publicly traded Maryland Real Estate Investment Trust that owns and manages medical office buildings throughout the United States. And so with that, I want to thank you again, and I'm grateful for this opportunity to serve such a vitally important institution, and I am open for questions.
Thank you, Vice Chair Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It was a pleasure meeting you briefly earlier this afternoon. Wanted to ask you a question that was similar to the question we asked Ms. Selby earlier for her nomination for the UMS board. You may be aware, considering your legal background, that the U.S. Supreme Court is currently considering a case regarding a federal law known as EMTALA. EMTALA is a law that requires anyone that's coming into an emergency department to be at least stabilized and not transferred somewhere else. There's a real risk in a ruling that's taking place likely later this year in June or July that could result in emergency rooms being able to refuse emergency and life-saving abortion care. And where this ties and intersects with UMS is that the system owns St. Joe's Medical Center, and UMS continues to run St. Joe's as a Catholic hospital. Do you have any thoughts on how the system should address this specifically if that case were to come to that conclusion? And would you be able to follow up with us on any additional policies that might be coming forward when it comes to trying to address this after that case comes to a conclusion?
Thank you, Senator Lamb, for that question. I am not as familiar with the details of the case, but I'm aware of it. And I'm also aware of the concern. As you know, I serve on the board and I'm vice chair of the board of the hospital of St. Joseph Hospital. And I think under the circumstances that were presented in your question, if there's an emergency, even under the Catholic identity that St. Joseph adheres to, the life of the mother would never be sacrificed for that of the unborn child. And so I think on a practical level, that is not going to be a problem. It's also not a problem from my perspective because St. Joseph Hospital is part of a larger medical system. And that larger medical system would be able to render care to a mother in non-emergent circumstances as well. I'm concerned like you are about what the case will ultimately hold in the end. But I think on a practical level, we'll be able to effectively and with excellence address the medical care of pregnant women in the state of Maryland.
So just to be clear, based on what you just responded with, are you saying that St. Joe's Medical Center is committed to ensuring that it would not deny needed abortion care if it's life-saving for a woman that might be transported by an ambulance, no choice of her own to where she might be going, but if she ends up at St. Joe's in the emergency department and she needs an abortion because it's life-saving care that's medically necessary, she would not be denied that care at St. Joe's?
That's correct.
Okay. And the reason it's important is because oftentimes these patients have no say in whatever facility the ambulance takes them to, right? So if they end up at St. Joe's instead of GBMC, that's where they end up. And so that's an important commitment to make. So you're confident of that?
Yes, I'm confident that if it's an emergency situation where the life of the mother is being threatened under the ERD, the Catholic ERD principles, that mother would be served and served effectively.
Okay, and you're not familiar with any discussions where that might change in the future?
I am not as familiar with the particular facts of the case, but what I'm basing my answer on is my knowledge of St. Joseph Hospital, my knowledge of the Catholic edict that governs the hospital. And it's very clear that if life-saving measures need to be taken for the mother, they will be taken even if it results in the death of an unborn child.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Senator Sidnor.
Have something a little bit more light. And after listening to
Thank you,
that
Senator
answer.
Sidnor. How lovely to see you.
Yes. What law school did you go to?
I went to University of Maryland Law School.
Thank you.
Duke undergrad, Maryland Law.
We didn't have to mention Duke. I mean,
All right.
just saying.
That was just a shameless plug. Any other questions? Thank you so very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right. Senator Benson, I apologize. If I'd have known you had more than one person, I would have called them back to back. Would you like to introduce to us Everett Browning?
Yes.
Senior, that is.
Hello, everybody. Poor souls. My name is Joanne C. Benson, Senator 24th Legislative District, Prince George's County. I am before you this afternoon to present Mr. Everett Browning Sr., who is seeking approval as a member of the State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission for a 5-year period. He is a retired United States Navy chief and Gulf War veteran who has rendered outstanding service as a community advocate for veterans, our youth, and minority small business owners. He has used his skills in developing programs which focus on health, economic development, wellness, and empowerment, education, domestic violence, and yes, our returning citizens. His professional experience as lead program manager, who was responsible for mentoring and reviewing cost, schedule, and performance for technology and capability development, as oversight and compliance contract officer, representatives who directed daily operations of $20 million contracts. It is fitting to say he will gain the needed knowledge and experience to keep our Lottery and Gaming Control Commission moving forward. He has the vision, he has the background, and he has the skills with unwavering commitment in getting the job done as he works to establish a level playing field for all Marylanders. Committee members, I am pleased to present Mr. Everett Browning Sr. for this momentous and wonderful job as a member of the State Lottery and Gaming Control Commission.
Good afternoon, Chairman Hayes, Vice Chairman Lamb, President Ferguson, committee. Thank you so much, Senator Benson, and also like to say happy birthday to you, Senator Benson. Thanks for being here with us on your birthday. It's an honor to be here today. I'm so grateful to our governor for giving me this opportunity. It's not lost on me how important the revenue from lottery and gaming is to so many initiatives in our state. I understand that. I'm excited for the opportunity to be a part of the quality and the efficient execution of the responsibilities. Staying here today, I'd like to say thank you mostly to my parents, to my kids who are watching around, Karina, Everett Jr., and Jonas, to say thank you to them for the many years of service that they had to endure birthdays and Christmases without me being there. But I'm excited right now to serve once again Maryland and our county. Any questions?
Senator Muse.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, for this moment to speak, to thank Senator Benson for this opportunity. I've known this boy, he was a boy. I've known him almost all of his life. His aunt and I, Reverend Joanne Granger, we went to Howard together and did our PhDs together, partied together. I mean, we were always in, you know what I'm saying? We were always there. And I remember how much they've boasted about him, what they thought of him. And so I am absolutely pleased to recommend and to vote for my brother, my friend. He's almost like a nephew to me because that's how long I've known him. I'll close with this. If he ever does something wrong, you all tell me. I will slap him so hard upside his head, they will wonder what happened to him. So that's all I want to say about him.
The views of Senator Muse do not represent the views of the Nominations Committee. We do not condone violence. Senator Carrozza.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Browning, as I represent Ocean Downs on Maryland's coast, and as you make your rounds around the state, which I assume that you will, I also wanted to extend an invitation to visit the Worcester County Veterans Memorial, given your background, and to thank you for your service.
Thank you very much, Senator. I look forward
And
to
you are planning to make those rounds, right?
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yes, I am.
Thank you.
Are there any additional questions? I guess I would just say me too. Everett is a person that's known around the state, has contributed greatly to the state as a public servant, and so fitting. And thank you, Senator Benson, for sharing this nomination with us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right. Next, Senator Brooks, we're going to have you introduce Ernest.
Chair Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, and honorable members of the Executive Noms Committee. For the record, I'm Senator Ben Brooks, representing the 10th Legislative District in Baltimore County. This nominee is an accomplished career public safety and criminal justice professional with over 20 years of executive management experience in the state, local program and management. Yeah. He has expert knowledge in investigative techniques. Yeah. And he possesses actively top secret security clearance. Yeah, yeah. His resume is impressive. His experience is extensive, and his contribution to the Maryland Parole Commission will be laudable. Yeah. He and his wife, Baltimore County Chief Administrative Officer Stacy Rogers, here from my district, are pillars of our community. And Mr. Chair, in order to comply with your request for a triple B, that's a bold, brilliant, and brief. I'm honored to present to you Mr. Ernest Ely Jr.
Thank you, Senator.
All righty.
Chairman Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, Senate President Ferguson, Senator Sidnor, members of the committee, good afternoon. I want to thank you for your consideration, and I'm just humbled and honored for this appointment from Governor Westmore and also from the office of the governor's appointments offices. Secretary Edwards walks out the door. Upon your favorable, hold on, Senator Brooks kind of stole my thunder. I want to thank my very capable wife, the Chief Administrative Officer of Baltimore County, for being here, and her very able colleague, Ms. Savita Brown, a brand new baby, first time mother, for being here also. Upon your favorable vote, I look forward to bringing more than 30 years of experience as a criminal justice practitioner, as a consultant for the United States Justice Department, as an intelligence professional in private industry and the federal government, to make wise decisions, always considering victims as we come to releasing people from any of Maryland's institutions. Thank you.
Are there any questions? Senator Sidnor.
I was just gonna talk about how Mr. Ely, I've known him for a couple of decades. He worked at parole and probation, I believe managing my father, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
And we've had a wonderful relationship ever since. And I think he will make a wonderful commissioner on the commission. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Are there any additional questions? Point of person privilege, Mr. Ernest is awesome leader in many ways, and definitely married up like many of us with my big sister and former colleague Stacy Rogers, as well as Savitra, who's joined us here this evening. Welcome, and thank you all so very much. Any additional questions, colleagues? Thank you so very much.
Thank you, sir.
All right, next, Dr. Bodensky. Dr. Bodensic. I apologize. Please feel free to correct me once you come to the podium. Again, sir, most people coming to the podium. You don't have to if you don't want to, but it's totally up to you. On behalf of Senator Salmonair, who could not be with us this evening, I'd like to introduce to you, colleagues, Senator Dr. Densick. Sorry, thank you so very much. Who has over 40 years of experience in increasing responsible corporate and federal government positions that have involved him in areas ranging from nuclear weapons development and targeting, export control policy and compliance enforcement, international business development, and to corporate management and technology and defense sectors. Dr. Denzik has a wide array of experiences, including he served on 3 presidential transitions teams and participated in numerous presidential campaigns at senior levels. Colleagues, I introduce to you Dr. Denzik.
That's very kind of you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. You know, that introduction is something my mother would like. My father would not believe. But thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, Senators Lamb and Ferguson. I've had the I also want to thank Governor Moore and one of his weaker moments to appoint me to the to MITFA. I've had the pleasure of serving on MITFA for the past several years. And I'm not here to complain, but I do have one complaint. MITFA is a great program, but has no money. I know budgets are a little tight, but when people see a line item for MITFA in the budget discussions, I think folks in Baltimore, small manufacturers, disadvantaged areas would benefit from MITFA. Thank you very much. And any questions?
Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Are there any questions? Thank you and have a good evening.
Okay, thank you.
Next, I'm going to ask Dr. Bands to come up, Dr. Kathleen Bands. Dr. Bands, Senator Folden could not be here with us this evening, but colleagues, Dr. Bands has an extensive career in higher education at Hood College, University of South Carolina, James Madison University, Meredith College, educated right here at the University of Maryland, and also educated from University of North Carolina on several occasions. Various accomplishments, well qualified to serve and represent us well as a public servant on the Maryland Higher Education Commission. Colleagues, welcome Dr. Kathleen Bands.
Good evening. Chairman Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, President Ferguson. I am honored to be here today to be considered for the Maryland Higher Education Commission. I have dedicated my career to higher education and understand the purpose and the passion that education can deliver to the citizens of Maryland. I appreciate the nomination from Governor Wes Moore and look forward to the opportunity to continue that Maryland is a leader in higher education, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Excellent. Are there any questions for Dr. Bands? Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Next, I'm going to ask Leo Paul Garinger. Thank you so very much, sir. Leo has extensive education. Here, from 2015 to present, he served as a senior faculty specialist from the Department of Agriculture. From 2012 to 2015, faculty specialist from the Department of Agriculture and Resources. Unfortunately, Senator Alonzo Washington could not be here this evening, but sends his strong support for the candidate before us today as a reappointment to this commission. Colleagues, I bring to you Mr. Leo Paul Garinger.
Thank you, and thank you, Chairman Hayes, Vice Chair Lamb, and President Ferguson, and thank you to our Governor Westmore. I apologize for my voice. I'm slowly losing it from allergies, so I will open it up. am happy to continue to work on the Mar-Bitco board, doing work with beginning farmers and helping finance them and offer opportunities to them. Are there any questions?
Any questions? All right. All right. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right. Senator Gall, are you ready to introduce Joseph Charles Bryce?
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Charles, huh? Middle name. You learn a lot about people on these proceedings.
Good evening, committee, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair. I may be biased, but I think I have the best constituents. It is my pleasure to introduce to the committee someone well known to you all, Joseph C. Bryce, and endorse his reappointment to the Maryland Stadium Authority Board of Directors. As you know, Joe has decades of expertise as a trusted advisor to Maryland policymakers, establishing himself as a leading architect and advocate for governmental programs in the state. His professional and likable demeanor enables him to navigate contentious issues with great skill, complemented by his extensive knowledge across various government levels. He has served in all levels of government, including as Governor Martin O'Malley, Senior Policy and Legislative Advisor, Associate Vice Chancellor for Government Relations at the University System of Maryland, Chief Legislative Officer for Governor Glenn Denning, Chief of Staff to Senate President Mike Miller. In these roles, he provided senior policy and budgetary counsel and spearheaded legislative initiatives spanning health, education, environmental conservation, gaming, tax policies, energy, and social and criminal justice. He earned his undergraduate degree from University of Maryland and graduated top of his class from Georgetown Law School. His professional accolades and academic achievements are numerous. Already has been serving for some time on the board for the Maryland Stadium Authority. He's joined here today by his wife, who I saw earlier, Kristen Jones-Bryce, who's also very highly regarded in Annapolis. True story, Joe and I met when I was outdoor knocking with Delegate Andrew Prusky, and it has been such a pleasure working with him and counting him among my favorite people here in Annapolis. So, and therefore I'd ask the committee for your support of his nomination. And with that, Joe Bryce.
Thank you, Senator Guile. Very much appreciate it and very much appreciate being in your district. Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, Mr. President, I'm happy to be here today. I would like to thank Governor Moore for having the confidence in me to reappoint me for my 4th term, and the secretary and her office for working with us through the process. And I've been on the board 12 years. I love it. I spent a lot of time on it, and I really look forward to continuing to serve. I would note as an aside, my wife texted me halfway through and said, "Oh, I forgot you were up today," because she's here with her appointee to the University of Maryland Medical System Board. So I guess you take it however you can get it. But with that, Mr. Chairman, happy to answer any questions.
President Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I would just say that the senator from the 33rd district was a little bit of a stretch with likable, right? In all seriousness, appreciate your ongoing service and thoughtfulness on this board, and appreciate the work that we've been able to do together. So second the nomination.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Excellent. Any additional questions?
Thanks.
Thank you so very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Joseph Charles Bryce. Senator West, you'd like to introduce to us Mr. Charles Theodore Hopkins Jr.
I would indeed. Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's a pleasure to introduce my constituent, Charles Hopkins. He's nominated to the Board of Trustees for the State Retirement and Pension Systems. Mr. Hopkins is a 1989 graduate of Princeton University. Then he went on to the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania. He was a Rhodes Scholar finalist. He then started his employment career with the J.P. Morgan and Company, went on to Alex Brown and Sons. He spent a year with the Federal Reserve Board. Then he launched his own company in 1997 to develop a platform of travel retail stores in large hub airports nationwide. In 2018, he launched Hamilton Hall Real Estate Partners and a first close for Airport Properties of America Fund, Inc. That's a venture capital firm which makes investments in airport real estate, real assets, and infrastructure. He would be a great member of the Board of Trustees of the State Retirement and Pension Systems. I recommend a favorable report from Mr. Hopkins.
Thank you, Senator West, for that kind introduction. Good afternoon, Chairman Hayes, Vice Chairman Lamb, and Senate President Ferguson. And thank you for considering my nomination by Governor Moore to serve as a trustee on the State Retirement and Pension System Board. It is a great honor to be nominated by Governor Moore, and I would like to thank him kindly for his consideration. I very much look forward to serving as a trustee, should you find this nomination favorable, under the leadership of Chairman Davis and Vice Chairwoman Lehrman, two people who I greatly respect and admire. As a native son of Maryland with friends and family that draw proceeds from the pension plan, I am further humbled by the chance to join the SRPS board and contribute my skill set and experience. Thank you again for your consideration, and I hope you will report favorably on my nomination.
Excellent. Are there any questions? Senator Feldman.
How long have you lived in the 42nd? I thought you used to live down in my neighborhood. When did you move?
I did, yeah, 4 years ago.
Oh, geez.
Yeah, I raised my family in Montgomery County in your district. So.
Okay, great to see you.
Thank you.
To God's country. Are there any additional questions? I think Senator West said he got an upgrade. Thank you so very much.
Thank you.
All right, Vice Chair Lamb, I'm gonna have you introduce who? Oh, the doctor on behalf of Senator Huston.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to invite up Dr. Esteban Schabelman, who is a nominee for the State Board of Physicians. Senator Hester could not be here, unfortunately. So as a Howard County colleague, pleased to be able to introduce you to the committee. These are remarks from Senator Hester. I'm honored to introduce Dr. Esteban Schabelman, who has been nominated to the State Board of Physicians, a resident of District 9. He has practiced medicine for over 15 years. He currently serves as the owner and the president of Innovative Healthcare Centers, a leading multi-specialty medical office practice with 13 practices in Maryland and Delaware. He brings a wealth of experience to his role with a background in health policy research, healthcare business administration, and teaching emergency medicine in higher education. He's also actively involved in various operating and advisory boards, including the American Board of Emergency Medicine, the American College of Emergency Medicine, the American Medical Association, and New Enterprise Ventures. Thank you for your enduring commitment to our community. And with that, let me turn it over to you to present to the committee. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Land, for that introduction. Good evening, Chairman Hayes and President Ferguson, as well as the rest of the committee. I'm proud to be nominated for this position for the Maryland Board of Physicians, and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have at this time.
Are there any questions? Thank you so very much. And last but certainly not least, we have Dr. John Peter Hussman. Colleagues, Dr. Hussman is being nominated by Senator Salmonair, who unfortunately could not be here today. And so I'll read briefly from his resume that he directs ongoing philanthropic projects with the goal of providing life-changing assistance through medical research, education, and direct aid to vulnerable populations having urgent needs of significant disabilities. Provided over $100 million in charitable funding to date, including major funding for autism research, global health, cancer, immunotherapy, transitional neuroscience, aid to displaced populations, homelessness, hospice care, education, and numerous other efforts, including disease eradication and mental health programs in partnership with the Carter Center. Dr. Hussman has not been idle in his time. Colleagues, I welcome and bring to you this evening Dr. Hussman to be appointed to the Maryland Stadium Authority. Dr. Hussman.
Thank you so much, Chairman Hayes, Vice Chairman Lamb, President Ferguson, and members of the committee. It's an honor to be here. I'm grateful for all of your work on behalf of the people of Maryland. I also want to thank my wife, Terry, who is here in support and is involved with many of our efforts at the Hussman Foundation on behalf of people in Maryland, particularly in homelessness and hospice care. Thanks to Governor Moore for his gracious nomination and Secretary Edwards for shepherding through this process as my Sherpa. I'm excited to support the work of the Maryland Stadium Authority, particularly because that work extends to so many areas that touch the lives of Marylanders, not only its stadiums, but projects that are essential to enhancing education, opportunity, and economic development in Maryland. I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Are there any questions, colleagues? Seeing none, thank you so very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, colleagues, I want you to be patient with us. We have a bill hearing. It'll go really, really quick. It's probably one of the most exciting bill hearings you've heard all session.
Yeah,
so
just
so prepare yourself. But before that, we're going to vote on the nominees that were here this evening. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Vice Chair Lamb.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would like to move forward with a motion in favor of voting on nominees 1 through 25, with the exception
of nominee 9, 13, 14, and S21.
Senator Lamb moved that we approve numbers 1 through 25, except numbers 9, 13, 14, and S21. It was seconded by Senator Rosenpep. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Senator Lamb, was that it?
Somebody else.
oh,
somebody else move forward,
sorry.
13, 14.
President Ferguson.
Move favorable on nominees 13 and 14.
Which they want?
S21.
It's good.
13
All right.
and 14.
So President Ferguson moved that we move favorable on number 13 and 14, and there was second one, someone over here. Senator Zucker. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
I'm saying.
Senator Lamb. Oh,
I'm
Senator
recused
Lamb.
from that.
Note that Senator Lamb is recused from that vote on Senator 13 and 14. Are there any additional questions? Are we done? Cool. All right, now I think we're gonna go into the bill hearing. This is exciting. This is exciting. Not. Just want to let you know. All right, colleagues, before you, you should have Senate Bill 1007, State Government Executive Appointments. This bill proposes clarifying the procedures regarding gubernatorial appointments that require state confirmation. And I believe it represents a significant step towards ensuring effective governance in our state. Senate Bill 1007 addresses the critical issue of timely nominations for vacant offices by clarifying what occurs if the governor submits nominations after the existing 40-day timeframe for the green bag appointments outlined in Article 2, Section 13 of the Maryland Constitution. This bill promotes accountability and efficiency in the appointment process. This measure prevents unnecessary delays and ensures the essential government positions are promptly filled, thereby avoiding potential disruptions in vital services and operations. Furthermore, the provisions outlined in Senate Bill 1007 serve to uphold the principles of transparency and democratic governance. By requiring the governor to submit nominations promptly upon becoming aware of impeding vacancies, this bill fosters openness and inclusivity in the decision-making process. Citizens have the right to know who will be representing them in key gubernatorial roles, and this legislation helps to facilitate that by ensuring timely disclosure of nominations. Another significant aspect of Senate Bill 1007 is the limitation it imposes on tenure of officers serving beyond their term of expiration. This provision prevents individuals from indefinitely occupying positions beyond their appointed term, thereby promoting a system of regular turnover and fostering opportunities for fresh perspectives and ideas within government agencies. In conclusion, Senate Bill 1007 represents a crucial reform that will enhance the efficiency, transparency, accountability of the appointment process for key government positions. By establishing clear timelines and limitations, this bill ensures that vacancies are promptly filled and the offices served within the boards are of their appointed terms. I urge a favorable committee report with one exception. We have a couple of amendments, and the amendments should be before you, colleagues. Amendment number 1C2 would strike 2 years and substitute with 4 years, essentially for those individuals that are serving 4 years beyond the expiration of their appointment. That amendment addressed that. This amendment number 2 is for the Board of Elections. It's so that appointments to the State Board of Elections may be made in a recess of the Senate, regardless of whether the term of office will end during the upcoming session. And this is the only part of the bill that we will ask to have as an emergency effective date. And then amendment number 3 simply changed the effective date to of the bill to January 1st. Are there any questions for the sponsor? Mr. Vice Chair, are we going to talk to each other? Go ahead.
Sure. Maybe council can help with this. For like administrators or directors that are leading agencies whose terms have expired. So this is not boards or commissions. Does that affect them? And you know, I think there's was that the 4-year reference that you made earlier?
That's the limit on the holdover.
Mhm.
Holding over is increased from 2 to 4 years in the amendments. And then if they're subject to Senate confirmation, yes, they would be subject to the.
So someone who is in administration position now, leading an agency or department that has to be confirmed by us, if they're still there now, they can serve another 4 years before they.
No, I got what you're saying. So typically when someone is appointed, right, they serve until the next replacement is appointed.
Right.
Sometimes their expiration date has been missed, right? And we've seen not often, but some occasions where that has happened. And so what we're saying is if an individual term is expired, there has not been a subsequent appointment up until 4 years, that person may continue to serve. But after that 4 years is over, that person is no longer afforded the opportunity to hold over, or I think you call them hang 'em ons or whatever beyond that term.
So that's being increased from 2 to 4 years?
Correct.
It doesn't exist.
Are you talking about people who serve at the pleasure of the governor that are subject to Senate confirmation, or people who are serving
Both.
terms of years?
Both.
That's subject to Senate confirmation. Well, if they serve at the pleasure of the governor, then the governor would replace them, but this wouldn't apply.
Right, they could replace them at any time.
Mhm.
So.
But if they're serving a term of years, they can only hold over for up to 4 years after their term ends.
What is
Under
current
the bill,
statute
Under
again?
the bill,
What's current?
there is no limit.
Current has
Yeah,
no
there's
limit.
no
Okay.
limit. And that's the problem that we wish to solve, that individuals where a subsequent appointment hasn't been made, that they don't continue to just hang on out there.
What happens in the instance of, say, the Maryland Insurance Administration Commissioner who has a term that's stated in statute of 4 years?
Right, and so they would continue to serve unless a subsequent appointment was made. If a subsequent appointment isn't made within 4 years, then they would expire their length of
Or they
service.
could be reappointed.
They can be reappointed.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they either reappointed or they're holding over up to 4 years.
So they could serve another 4 years, I guess, beyond when their term is expired under this.
As a holdover, yes.
yeah, as a holdover.
Not under current law,
Not under current.
Not under
Under
current.
the bill.
under the bit.
You could serve as in current law, you could serve as a holdover, but there's no.
Until you're
Right.
replaced.
Yeah, until you're replaced. There's no definitive time limit on that, term limit on that.
Okay.
You good? Sure. Are there any additional questions? Senator Roosevelt.
Yeah, thank you for those clarifications. So under the bill as amended, you come to the end of your 4 years after the end of your term, you're out, and there's a vacancy unless an appointment has been made. And so somebody's gonna be acting, I guess, is the way it's gonna work?
So currently, if say you are appointed, you serve 4-year term, you come to the end of that 4 years as you described. You would continue serving unless another appointment is made. So like, that's what they call a holdover.
Right, I understand.
Yeah. And so, but in some cases, if an appointment isn't made, you would continue, it doesn't automatically become
It's not really a 4-year term.
right. It's not really a
No, I
4-year
get it.
term if they don't make a subsequent appointment.
But essentially, what I'm getting at, but what happens in terms of running the agency or doing the work? There's an acting person who's running it when the person who was in the appointment is gone. At the end of the 4 years after the end of the term, is that the way it would work?
Well, they're actually, they're not serving a term. Oh, sorry.
But I'm saying who's running there's somebody in the agency who will be acting as the person in that job because the person who was in that job was term limited out. Is that the way it works? I'm trying to understand how it operates.
Well, there's a vacancy. It's up to the governor to.
That's my
fill that
question.
Vacancy. Or reappoint that person.
A term limit is not really a term.
I'm sorry?
A term limit is not really a term limit. The person will serve until a subsequent appointment is made.
I understand, that's what we're trying to get at here.
Right, and so in some instances, I think Senator Lamb makes a good point. In this case, the insurance commissioner had a 4-year term.
Right.
The governor has not made a subsequent appointment or reappointment for that matter.
Right.
And so that person continues to serve unless there's an appointment.
And under
Up until 4 years, but the limit is 4 years
Right,
as a whole.
but under this amended bill, then in that example, they could serve another 4 years without the governor having reappointed.
Correct.
Correct. The
Correct.
clock starts when the bill takes effect.
Yep.
So but let's play out a hypothetical here. So let's say
Currently, they could, without these amendments, currently they could serve 20, 30.
No, I
40.
get it. No, I mean, I get the problem we're trying to solve.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to understand is, so what if the governor doesn't appoint someone after the second 4 years? What happens?
Then there's a vacancy. Yeah, then at that point, it's a vacancy.
And okay, I'm not that familiar with the law of vacancies. So as a vacancy, who is in charge at the agency?
Good point. Hopefully, I'm not sure if that's this bill. Whoever is second in command and that chain of, would be in charge.
Okay, that might.
But this bill doesn't speak specifically to that, but in all practicality, whoever is the deputy or second person in charge would assume that.
Okay, all right. I just want to clear. That's an important issue in terms of somebody's going to be running the show.
Indeed. I appreciate your question.
Thank you. The second is 4 years beyond your appointment seems like a long time. Why I'm asking the sponsor or anybody else, why give the governor as much as 4 years not to reappoint someone or appoint somebody else?
Yeah, so this bill seeks to put limits on it. Currently, there are no limits.
I know.
Right? And so 4 years, the amendment, and maybe a better explanation may be provided in the oral testimony from the administration.
Okay, I look forward to it.
All right. Thank you. And we'll come back if it is not. All right. Eric Lukey.
Mr. President, Mr. Chairman.
Eric Lukey is testifying orally. Was this favorable?
Favorable with amendments.
Favorable with amendments.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. President, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, all the other chairs and vice chairs and speakers pro tem and leaders and whips. Good to see everyone. Thank you, as always, for the incredible partnership this committee has shown to the administration in what is one of our most important constitutional duties and one of your most important constitutional duties, the process of appointment and nomination. And the mutual respect that we've had for each other throughout this process is deeply appreciated, I know, by the governor, by the Secretary of Appointments, and by all of us in the administration. Senate Bill 1007 is intended to codify constitutional provisions regarding the green bag appointments as they've developed through case law, legal interpretation, and practice over time, in addition to making the changes that were just described in terms of the holdover process. It's important to remember that these constitutional provisions are more than 150 years old at this point, and have developed over time as a process and a constant interaction between administrations and members of the Senate. Today, there are more than 225 Senate confirmable boards and commissions in state government, representing 1,862 appointments that require Senate confirmation. It is an enormous task. It's a task that was frankly not envisioned when the original rules were created 150 years ago, and there were many fewer people being appointed to roles in state government. As the numbers of appointments have increased, some prior administrations have chosen a path that we chose not to take. They've chosen a path of allowing many positions to enter holdover, of allowing many vacancies to accrue. When this administration took office, the Secretary of Appointments and the governor made it their goal to reverse that. When we came into office, 17% of appointed positions in state government were vacant. That's 884 out of 5,234. An additional 23% were in holdover. We believe that that was unacceptable. And so we've hustled, frankly. We've worked very hard to try to replace them. And thanks to the hard work of
Secretary Edwards and her team, in the first year of the administration, this administration appointed 1,948 individuals to state government. That's 350 more than the Hogan administration in its first year, 600 more than the O'Malley administration in its first year. But there are still some challenges with the process that we're going to need to think through over time. And I hope that this bill is part of an ongoing conversation. For example, the original constitutional provisions were posited on the idea that every single board and commission in state government would start on May 1st. And obviously that's not something that is in line with constitutional practice as it's occurred over time. But that does, for example, leave a large gap between a position that may have its term start on December 1st and the work of this committee to review an individual who's being appointed. So that may be worth further conversation. So too might be worth further conversation the number of positions that are being created through boards and commissions. 5,000 is a lot of appointments. And last year, between actions of the legislature and actions of the administration, we added 28 new boards and commissions for a total of 284 new seats. This is an enormous challenge for us, and we know it's an enormous challenge for you. You all sit in very long hearings on Monday nights doing your constitutional duty, but it's something that's worth talking about over time. As to this specific bill, we support this bill with the committee amendments that were just suggested. I'd add one minor tweak to that if we could. This bill is an important step towards our continued process of making sure that everybody who's appointed to these positions is well vetted by the administration, is reviewed and vetted again by the Executive Nominations Committee during their confirmation process. So we support the amendments as proposed by the chairman, including the extension of holdovers to 4 years. Currently, holdovers can serve indefinitely. We have holdovers that have been in positions for upwards of a decade. And this would allow us to replace those holdovers more efficiently. We would ask for just one minor tweak to the amendments, and that would be to make clear that the provisions after that of the 4 years are prospective rather than retrospective. And we ask for that because the appointments office is in the process of continuing to build its logistical capacity. As you know, we have significantly increased the personnel in that office to handle the task at hand. But in addition to personnel, we have challenges with IT infrastructure that we are working on and plan to roll out over the next few years. With that, Mr. Chairman, I would ask for a favorable report on the bill with amendments.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Lukey? Senator Reedy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. With regards to the overall issue of this bill, do you think we have too many boards and commissions, and should we be looking at reorganizing state government to perhaps eliminate some unneeded or obsolete ones?
I would never question a board or commission created by the legislature. I would say that I think it's worth, with upwards of 600 boards and commissions in state government, I think it is worth a second look. We are undertaking that process in the administration right now. There are a number of boards and commissions that were created over the decades by executive order. And so we're taking a close look at past executive orders to determine if there's any that where the board or commission is no longer necessary.
Or perhaps could be consolidated or downsized to fewer appointments.
Sure. I think we're all, particularly in these tough budget times, interested in efficiency. And boards and commissions are vital in terms of providing public input to the decisions of government. And also they require support and effort by the agencies that staff them.
Senator Feldman.
Yeah, just maybe I didn't catch it. The bill as introduced, because we're talking about this 4-year number being in the committee amendments, the chair's amendment. What was it as introduced? What was the number? I appreciate the guardrails. What was it as introduced?
So so let me take a step back from your question. Under current provisions, it is indeterminate. A person could serve and hold over indefinitely.
I get that.
As introduced, it's 2 years. Under these amendments, it would be 4 years.
Okay. I mean, I guess I'm just wondering, Senator Rosapep, I mean, 4 years does seem like a long time. Just if you don't mind me asking the rationale, we could take it offline. It just to go from 2 to 4, I'm just trying to get a sense of like the underlying premise or rationale for that, but that's something we can discuss. Yeah, well, you said it was 2 years as introduced, so, but okay.
Did you want to comment on that?
No, I'm happy to continue the conversation. Up to you, Mr. Chairman.
Gotcha. Mr. Vice Chair Lamb.
Could I follow up on Senator Feldman's question and request an answer to that question?
Sure. I think so the 2 to 4 years, the question is really a question of capacity of the appointments office to process through all these holdovers. Despite the incredible work that the appointments office has done, there are still a number of positions that are in holdover, and we want to make sure there's adequate time to find appropriate replacements for those people who are currently in holdover, or to consider whether to reappoint them through the normal process.
Because 4 years could be like another full term. Like that's a long time for, I mean, it just seems like a very long time to have the ability to kind of hang on even longer, I guess.
Sure. I would just say that under current constitutional provisions, it is indefinite. Adding a date certain at all is a significant change. Although, as I said, we are favorable with amendments and support that concept of adding a date certain.
Right. But to what you were saying earlier, you could have someone who's been serving a decade on a commission. And this would actually, since this is, I guess, prospective, according to what you said, they could have another 4 years, up to another 4 years beyond the decade that they've served already to stay on, right? Okay. So for someone like, we were just talking about the Maryland Insurance Administrator, the term has already ended, right, in the past. And so even though this bill is prospective, they would still be able to stay on for another 4 years, up to another 4 years. Right.
If the administration chose not to use the appointments process to appoint a replacement or to reappoint the incumbent.
Correct.
Right. Was there any thought given to, I understand the capacity issues, but was there any thought given to the fact that for maybe some more senior or agency director level positions that need confirmation here, that those could be 2 years, and for some of the other commissions that may not be of a stature that they're leading up an agency or department, that those could be 4 years, to kind of prioritize how we would, stagger through the effort and workload required?
So to answer your direct question, I have not heard conversation about that concept, although we'd be happy to talk it over. I would point out that the vast majority of agency leadership serve at the will of the governor. They're not on a term. So these provisions would not really apply to them. There's only a handful of agency leaders that are in a term, like the insurance commissioner.
Right, like the insurance commissioner. Okay. Thank you.
Senator Muse.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for coming. This is one of those bills I studied all weekend and agonized over it. Probably got hundreds of calls on it. And so what I'd like to propose as a compromise, and I'll do the amendment myself, if my buddy over here and all who ask the questions of this would simply promise to never ask any question on this issue again. I'd like to propose an amendment to do just 3 years and be done with it. Everyone take that home, figure it out, come back. I'll be willing to amend the amendment. But 3 years, we all remain friends. You don't know how much, sir, we agonized over this. We were all agonized at all kinds of meetings on this. I think that's the best compromise. Would you look at that and somebody get back to my office right away to tell me if that's acceptable? And that's all I want to say.
Senator Muse, I would just ask if we could talk between now and then this come for the floor and make a decision on whether or not doing a floor amendment. This is the last meeting that we'll have before crossover.
Okay. Oh, that's the
right.
case.
And there's only a Senate bill.
Oh, well,
there's no House bill.
Just so that we don't have to meet anymore, I'll go with a no on it, and or yes, maybe a no, Mr. President. I'm sorry to bother you with this. I know you have a lot of pressing things on you, but if you can make that decision, then I'll say yes or no, depending on the time that we have. And thank you, colleagues, for hearing me from your hearts. And that's all I want to say.
Thank you so much, Senator Muse. Senator Reedy.
At the risk of incurring everyone's ire, I mean, we just saw this bill with all these amendments. So we're going to vote it now. It's a pretty big change.
Yeah. Well, actually, a lot of it is already codified in the law. This is codifying existing law already for the most part, with the one exception of what we've been doing most of the discussion on around the holdovers. It's mostly current law.
So if we're gonna vote this, then we'll have to vote tonight on nominees as well, correct?
Tonight on the floor?
No, okay, never mind.
No, right. The nominees don't need to meet crossover date. And this report won't come till probably Wednesday or Thursday. To the floor.
Because you said we got to vote tonight. I mean, we got several days till crossover. We don't want to get back together.
We could. I mean, I know a lot of you guys have bills that you want to make it over. We could spend time here instead talking about this very exciting bill.
It's extremely exciting. Thank you.
Senator Sidnor.
Quick question. The amendments that we have, are these the governor's amendments or
I think it's the they're compromise amendments between the administration as well as the
sponsor.
Thank you. Sure. Thank you. Are there any additional questions? Is there any unreadiness? I'd like to entertain a motion that we move Senate Bill 1007 and the amendment seconded by Senator Muse. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the motion carries. What's that?
Oh, yeah, third witness.
Oh, wait a minute. Is there a third witness?
Hang on.
Kashina Cross. I'm so sorry. We got caught up in the spirit. This is an unfavorable testimony. And you have 2 minutes.
Excellent. Thank you so much to the chair, Senator Hayes. I acknowledge the presence of Senator Ferguson and as well as the secretary and all senators who are gathered here amidst this particular bill. I note the agonizing pain, but today I expected to see a lot of rip roar, hum roar with a lot of claps and cheers and yells as people were appointed because we had about 82 of them. I acknowledge the work that you're putting in, and I also acknowledge the time and the effort that you have to ensure the deliberateness of the governance of the state of Maryland. As I attended today, I preferred to make a favorable with amendments until I looked at what was actually being done. If we're looking at the legislative process, it continues beyond sign die. I am urging an unfavorable because at this point, in light of potential consequences to which this will incur a fast action change where we may have stability or policies that are currently being worked by the people that are in place. If we look at a 2-year or a 4-year term, even extending to another 4-year term presents an 8-year opportunity, which doesn't actually change the place and position in what we're already in. We meet each year within the Senate. We are asking for deliberate selections to be presented before the Senate by the governor as well as the governor's staff. I looked at the valuation that you applied to each appointee today, and I did not take it lightly. The questions that you asked for the limited value of each committee to be edified by the appointment as well as the appointees. You asked them to justify why they thought they were the best candidate for this opportunity. And based on that balance, I am also asking the consideration that the committees remain balanced, that the committees do not fall unbalanced based on the regulation to limit those that may have already been in position that are healthy for the state of Maryland. The legislation proposes several changes, and the people, as well as those that are serving, are volunteering their services. Note that they also have regular jobs and regular community work, and the absence of their presence in any committee could be a hindrance to that particular board. So I am asking you that if the governor becomes aware of an absence, that is not necessarily something that we should account for.
Let's check and see if there are any questions from the committee. Are there any questions for Ms. Cross? Seeing none, thank you so very much. Thank you for your presentation this evening. Senator Reedy.
I'd like to have the vote. We're going to have the vote now. I know you told it. I would really rather hold this bill, but I understand you saying you're not gonna want to get it back together. I mean, it's a change that is.
I do anticipate there may be floor amendments that will be worked out prior to this bill coming to the floor.
Well, if we're gonna call a vote, I would just like to have a vote again. So.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, we need to, that was a little tad bit premature. That vote wasn't called out. So with that, I will accept the amendment and motion to move favorable with amendments on Senate Bill, 1007. Move favorable by Senator Muse, seconded by Senator Rosenpap. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Roll call.
Senator Lamb,
Yes.
Senator Augustine,
Yes.
Senator Beidle,
Yes.
Senator Carozza,
And to explain my vote, I just have not been able to read it line by line and to understand the bill and the amendments.
Senator Feldman, President Ferguson.
Yes.
Senator Guzoni is he back? I'm not here. Okay. Senator King,
Yes.
Senator McKay,
Yes.
Senator Muse,
Provided that I have the right to change my vote, I would just say yes. Leave it at that.
Senator Reedy,
Motion passes. Are there any further points of discussion before we adjourn? Senator McKay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We had passed on nominee number 9. Is there a reason for that? Or are you just looking for someone else to make a nomination?
No, so what is customary in executive nominations, if there's a senator that requests to hold an appointment for any reason, typically on the first request, we usually honor that. And in this case, there was a request from one of the senators to hold nominee number 9.
Okay, thank you for the clarification.
Are there any additional questions, suggestions, pontifications? All right. Yes, Senator Reedy, my guy, never let me
Is there
down.
gonna be an opportunity for this nominee from the state Republican Party that's been
Oh,
approved by the
absolutely.
governor
So
to answer the concerns of particular individual people or?
absolutely. So last Friday, I think, we had another 140 so nominees submitted to us. We're probably not going to meet next week because it's crossover deadline, but we will have a meeting on that subsequent Monday, right, Mindy? Right, on the 25th, right? And so that will be the time in which we will probably
Make a vote.
Take that vote.
Okay,
Indeed.
thank you very much.
All right. Are there any, Senator McKay.
I apologize, but that brings up another process question. Let's just say for whatever reason, that nominee is not confirmed. Is that still going to be leaving enough time for the GOP to come up with another name? Or is this, to be perfectly honest, similar to this bill, going to miss any chance of being filled?
No, I think there definitely will be time left to come up with another nominee if for whatever
Yeah,
reason.
I'm just
There-
hypothetically, I'm just trying to figure out from a process standpoint.
Absolutely. There is no guarantee that it won't be. I think there is some outstanding questions based off of the questions and testimony that was provided before the committee today that hopefully will be answered, and we will have an opportunity to deliberate and take action on a nominee.
Very fair. Thank you, sir.
Senator Carozza.
Just to clarify, the 4 names that were pulled out, 2 of them we pulled out and then voted on because of Senator Lamb had to recuse. And then one was number 9, nominee number 9 was held. Was nominee number 21 also held?
Statewide 21.
What's that?
S21.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. So we did not vote on that one either. Are there any additional questions, clarifications? With that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Thank you. We're adjourned.